guys. I am coming to you from outside. If you're listening to this, it's March 24th. We've been in shelter in place for officially for a day, but we've been quarantined for over a week now. And so I just had to get outside. This is the first pretty day we've had in Texas, and so I'm on kind of my back porch at Lonesome Dove Ranch overlooking the cross where we have all of our incredible encounter moments with abused children who come here during the summer. But that's why I can get up closer and you can see me well in the lighting. There you go. But then you lose the view. So I thought the view was a lot better looking than I am. So I would just let you see the view more than me. Most of you may be listening to this by audio, so the video is irrelevant. But those of you that are watching on YouTube are seeing this. And I just have a really incredible moment today. Educators have been really a significant part of my life, even educators that didn't share my faith throughout my journey, both in my high school career through my undergrad, graduate, and doctoral studies have helped shape me into becoming the pastor, the leader, the communicator that I am today. And so educators are an incredible gift to our community, and I have two of the best. One of which was my kids' principal when they were smaller in elementary school, now the assistant superintendent in Wylie Independent School District, and then we have the superintendent of Wylie Independent School District. Both jumped on this interview today and are going to be a blessing to you. I would encourage you, if you have not yet subscribed to our podcast, you can do that in many, many ways, and I'll be explaining exactly how to do all of that after this interview is over. But for right now, for those of you that may not be a part of the Wylie School District, this is an interview first to the North Place family from key educators in one of the larger school districts that our church family serves. We have probably a half dozen or more large Texas school districts represented in our church, not to mention all the homeschooling and independent or the private schools, charter schools that are represented at North Place. But Wylie is one. I think Dr. Vinson said they have 17,000 plus students in the school district. And so you're going to be hearing, even if you're not a part of Wylie, this is a message from educators, how the church can assist during this time and the role of faith in public education. And then a little word of hope at the end for those of you that are trying to figure out how to educate your kids at home right now in the middle of all this stuff. So jump on, enjoy the time together. It's just a 20-minute or so interview. I think it'll add value to you. Thank you for tuning in. All right. First of all, let me just say thank you to Dr. David Vinson and Scott Wynn for joining me. Dr. Vinson is the superintendent of Wylie ISD, Wylie Independent School District. Scott Wynn is the assistant superintendent, and so it's a double blessing. I will say in the beginning, I couldn't be locked up anymore. Any of you, I don't know when you're going to be listening to this, but it would probably be sometime during this coronavirus epidemic. And so this was the first nice day in Texas without rain and cold. And so forgive any planes flying over or outside noise. I needed some fresh air. So it's a blessing to have these guys on. Let me just say this, and I'll let you two kind of introduce a little more about yourself. But both of these men have been influential in my kids' lives. We have been Wylie ISD parents. Our kids have been in the Wylie School District, an incredible school district, and I really believe that the culture of the district is very much a representation of the quality of its leadership from the top down. I was in the first meeting. We were in Wylie, Dr. Vinson, when you became the superintendent. You had a meeting of some of the faith-based leaders from the area at the administration building. And I was in that very first meeting when you basically introduced yourselves to the area pastors, you and your family. And then you introduced the concept of the Wylie way. And I remember meeting you and saying, can this guy sustain this kind of energy and this passion? I mean, is this the new thing that's going to wear off? And here we are. I think that was in 2011. And here we are. You're the Energizer Bunny that has never, you've been true. That's been your authentic self. Matter of fact, my daughter, who is now a sophomore, was in kindergarten, first grade, used to say to me, she said to me, Dad, today do guns up. He'll give you $1 if you do guns up, because she used to.
That is true. And I got to be honest with you, Texas Tech now, Wylie High School is the #5 feeder school for Texas Tech now.
Wow.
So I don't get any discount for my kids that are going to go there next year, but I'm just saying that it's important to know that we're making a difference. Right?
And Mr. Wynn over there was my kid's principal. Yes. So he was our elementary school principal prior to becoming the assistant superintendent. So just incredible men and incredible people. And just wanted the two of you to speak into this current situation. We have a lot of Wylie families that attend North Place, but more than that, there are a lot of people listening to this that are not Wylie residents, but are trying to figure out how to do school now, trying to figure out how to address this. So, what would you guys particularly say in this situation to these parents as administrators and educators? What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing is, and you were in that meeting and you know this, we ask you to say, if you waved a magic wand and you could instill the values you'd want for an adult to have, what would they be? And we ask you to write those on a piece of paper and a little sticky note. And when we collected them and organized them, 6 times more than any other thing that we ask of our adults and leaders in the community about what they wanted in a future kid, future citizen, future adult, was those who have to care and give for their community. And, people don't talk a lot about that. But if it's a value that we want to instill in our kids, it's not only hopeful and important that we show it or talk about it, but show it. And, so for example, and you guys were amazing about this too, one of the folks are at North Place, Jeff Kerr, he brought a bike over to our house, we took care of 1,100 kids who needed Christmas in a week.
Wow.
And it wasn't Wylie ISD, it was the churches and it was organizations in town and people who cared. And, it's just, you make a difference in that notion of we have shared values. I say I'm here the 9th year because I share the values of y'all. And the church and faith-based community makes a big difference there. And so when we had this crisis, instead of dictating what we want for people, we ask, what do you think we need? Because a lot of it's emotional support, psychological support. But the first thing that rattled out of the box, mamas and daddies said, what they talked about feeding the kids.
Yeah, and Dr. Vinson was the first thing we talked about is what's the greatest need we have right now? And it's going to be feeding those babies that are at home that normally count on us for lunch. And so that's been a great need. And I know that you and I have talked about that a little bit too, Pastor Jarrett, and we're going to be in more conversation about that going forward. But that's been a great outpouring, not just from us, but from our community and feed these babies. And so we're feeding more than 1,000 a day around our whole community, not just through Wylie ISD, but through many organizations. So gosh, it's been a blessing. And that came out of the efforts of, one comment, and it was Dr. Vinson saying, hey, what's our greatest need? We've got to get these babies food. So,
and I think we have an after-school program in the Garland School District, and so we are really aware. We started noticing from those kids that are in our after-school program, while most kids were excited when school was canceled, they were disappointed when school was canceled. I don't know whether it's spring break or the beginning of a summer. And so we started trying to dig in, like, why is there such an adverse reaction to school being out for these kids? We're in high-risk schools. Most of the kids there are on subsidized lunch in some way, and we're helping them, and we've seen incredible results in their test scores. But one of the things we dug into, obviously there's some stability in our repetition and the volunteers that they get, they may not have everywhere. But when we drill down, we realize they get food when school is in, and we feed them in our after school program. And it just crushed me that the reason they are more bothered when school is out than the typical student is because they're having to worry about where they're going to eat. Yeah. And we're too blessed for kids within our reach to have to worry about that. And so it's not a statistic or a number when you're working with these kids every day and you realize that's a real fear in their life. So anybody that hears this, or anybody in the North Place family that's not on board with us helping these local school districts, I encourage you to put a face to it, because there are students out there that they want to be in school because they want to see their friends and they need some normalcy, but some of them want to be in school because they want to eat.
Pastor Jared, you make a great comment there, but it's even when we're in school on Fridays, our counselors secretly give a backpack to some of our kids they know don't have food at home. And that backpack goes home completely sealed. No one sees it. And it has food for the weekend for those kids over the weekend. And so that right now in itself isn't happening as well. So we're trying to reach out to give, we try to give food for tomorrow as well as today. And so those are things that have come to an end due to this as well, because the backpacks, we don't have direct contact with our kiddos.
I'll also say this, one of the things, because, Wylie doesn't have nearly the poverty that Garland does, but it's important for my kids and your kids to see that there's a need out there, and that as folks who've been so blessed, that we help our babies that need us, and that they see that part of their role as an adult through the words and actions of the people that are in charge here, that's a priority. And their social and emotional well-being, their hope. I don't know if you know this, or you do know this. We measure the hope level in our children every year. There's a statistical survey that allows you to do that. And the hope is the belief that tomorrow is better than today, and you have the power to impact that. And we do at church have the ability in our schools to impact that hope. And if we can give kids that, we can give them a lot.
Absolutely. And I think we're all gearing up for Easter season to try to offer. It's always a message of hope, but this year it's going to be incredibly unique because we're forced to do things differently. I know pastors across America have been disheartened because this is the time where we're able to touch more lives than ever, and now we can't meet. But what we're realizing in the church right now is the greatest crisis is not having to move from brick and mortar to online services and trying to reinvent church. The greatest crisis is the spread of this disease and the ripple effect that it is having. As it moves forward, somebody we know is going to get it. And there's a possibility that by the time somebody hears this podcast weeks down the road from where we are today on the 24th of March, that somebody we know may have passed away from this virus. So there is a real crisis that is in front of us. One of the things that, I know I work, I was mentioning this to you guys before we started recording, but with another ministry, nonprofit that engages abused children. And everybody in that sphere is telling me the abuse cases, Cook's Children's Hospital and our social workers in this epidemic, parents that already struggle with that for whatever reason, and now are bottled up with their kids can't go out. The abuse cases are going through the roof. Cook Children's Hospital has seen an epidemic, not of COVID, but of child abuse. And the sad reality is the number one reporter of child abuse is teachers. They see it, they interact with it, they know, and now there's not that line to be in the way to protect these kids. And it's just been because of the world I live in, it's been one of the major prayers. God, would you protect these babies, not just feed them, but the vulnerable ones who don't have the outlet, that teacher that's watching and sees something that's not right and reports it. Well, that's not happening right now. So that's another that's a major crisis here that we're not talking about, like this feeding thing. There are other things that are very real. So Wylie Way is a big deal. Look, how do you guys navigate that? I know that you are very much engaged in your own faith journeys, incredible men. And administrators. So how do you walk that line as men of faith and public school administrators?
Well, I think Scott and I both will be the first to tell you we're in God's perfect will. in what we do. And this is a mission in terms of what we can do for our kids that we serve and the families that we encounter. And it's really funny, I don't know who made this really scary thing, but that there is this big separation between church and state, and there is. But there are so many things that we can do together. Is there a week that goes by that we don't work with the church?
That's true. Very true.
I mean, from everything. Literally everything. And, of the people that we recognize and everything is typically from churches. Our social worker works with churches. And the one thing that we have tried to do is find ways to bring people in and talk to people rather than try to find a way to exclude the churches, because it's the way things used to run.
Right.
And we welcome churches and we welcome the help that we give and the partnerships that we can provide, because it grows both of us. And the thing is it's really valuable.
It's been a great partnership. I would agree. And the fact is, and our greatest needs and our finest hours are when the community steps up, and it's the churches and the community organizations that step up to really make a difference in what we're doing. The lights have gone down because we've been too.
We don't have air, and so just a second. Let me get this done. I'll do that back. Scott, you keep talking amongst yourselves.
There we go. So, churches are huge in our organization and what we do, and they have all come together as a group, a collective group, not just one church. I would say every church in our community steps up to really make sure the needs are met.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, one of the things that, and I know it's important to you guys because you're very intentional about it, and I don't know how you say it in your culture, but my doctoral work is in organizational change, and I really see myself as a cultural architect. I mean, that's what I am, and language is a humongous part of sustaining, creating, cultivating, and changing any culture is the power of the language you choose to use. And I know Wylie Way and you have your specific language that is not just impacting school districts, but families in an entire community. On our grid and our corporate language at North Place Church, we say things like, we go after forgotten people in forgotten places. We invite the uninvited. I mean, that's what we do. I've just lived under the premise that if you'll go after the ones everyone else overlooks, God will see to it that everybody else notices. And so our whole passion is for the at-risk, the marginalized, the disenfranchised, which is one of the reasons we have such a significant outreach to special needs students, which is where our dream to have a prom for special needs kids that has now grown to multiple school districts, which you guys are now a part of. And we have the opportunity through some of our Fall Fest events to engage special needs kids in Wylie. And we're dreaming about how to do more and partner more with you. And for you guys to walk into our staff meeting the other day and present an award to us, I'll let you talk about it from your side, but this is, for those that are listening outside of Texas, Wylie's a big school district, and it's a large school district. And when school board members and the superintendent show up at a church staff meeting to thank an entire church for modeling the Wylie way, that was a big deal to us. And so thank you for recognizing our work with the community and the local schools. And I'll just let you speak to that from your side.
Well, you can thank us for that, but in all honesty, you're doing all the work. I mean, we can give you an award and have the dinner in your honor, but goodness gracious, what you do is just hard to measure. Because, okay, and I'll give it in this perspective. We have 17,500 kids. We're one of the fastest growing school districts in Texas. We have about 700 new kids a year. People want to be here and really appreciate what we call the shared values of our community, which are the things that we call the Wylie way. And when you are so deliberate that we have an award that we give 6 times a year, it's only 6 times a year, and then we actually have an entire banquet, a citywide banquet, to recognize the 6 most influential people or organizations that make that big of an impact. You're one of them, and it's because you take care of the kids that are in most need, those kids that have those special needs, and you make them feel valued and loved, and you bring honor and the values that we promote as a school. And not only is that reach felt by those students, but a video is created and it's distributed to everyone. When we email that to 30,000 people or so that see that God's love is being done in our schools, and that what we do is just so impactful. And people don't forget it.
Yeah.
And we can talk about values, but you live them. And if we promote them and our kids see that, even if they stray a little bit, they're coming back because they see that that is what built us, that's what makes us, that's what we're about.
I would also say, Brian, you talked about being a culture builder. I know when Dr. Vinson came, our culture began to change. Truly, it was about every child in our district. And I'm going to let Dr. Vinson speak to where we're at ranked as far as we go with our educational, what we do with kids and scores and things like that across the state. But it's been drastic since he's been here.
Well, talking about the Wylie Way and about the values that you help us establish. We didn't create those values. You actually selected them. And when we decided that, we started on a journey of excellence. And, we've our SAT average, we asked before about half of our kids took it. Now we ask every kid to take the SAT, and we increased SAT over 112 points. And the value in that is that we have people like y'all helping us. We can't do it on our own. And you don't think that those things that you do in the church, the money you give to churches and the volunteer hours that are spent in blood, sweat, and tears don't make a difference. When a school and a community come together with a church, it's revolutionary. It's revolutionary. And it's a game changer. We're one of the highest achieving school districts in Texas, and I believe that North Place has a huge impact on that.
Well, and let me just say this. I was the first male in my family to graduate from high school. No male ever graduated high school. And so I'm first male or female to ever graduate from college. And then I went on as a part of setting a new pace to get a master's degree and then a doctoral journey and an earned doctorate. And education has been a tremendous part of my journey. But I had English teachers that taught me how to write. They didn't know when they were teaching me how to write essays that they were actually teaching me how to craft sermons. You understand? But in my AP English class, the journeys that those teachers took me on, I owe a lot of the way I deliver sermons today to some of those English teachers in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. They prepared me for school. And it took me years to look back and understand that and connect the dots. I don't figure every 10th grader out there listening is valuing those assignments to shape them for what they are going to be. But I can sit here and tell you now, I'm more effective at using the gift God has placed in my life because of educators. And so I'm incredibly grateful, especially to people who are not afraid to live out their faith as a calling in the marketplace like you guys are, and the way the Wylie School District just embraces that. Let me just say this. I thank you for your time. You've been an incredible blessing. One more thing. I just want to ask you one more thing. If there was a family gathered around the TV, the computer right now, and some of them are watching this, they'll watch this on YouTube as a video. Some will see it as a social media post. Others will be listening to it on Apple, Stitcher, some other podcast location. And as superintendent, assistant superintendent, some of your Wylie kids with their moms and dads are sitting here watching this or listening to this. What would be a shot in the arm you would give them right now? They're 2 days in to try to figure out this online thing. I know some of them have been in our church, have been bragging about your teachers, doing the parades, coming through there. I literally, my assistant, Kara Gore, and her family are all Wylie ISD. And she just said she stood on her front porch and cried with her kids when the teachers came by. The family feel is real. So some of those people are sitting there listening to you guys right now. What would you say to them?
That everything begins with grace and goodness, and that together we're going to be okay. And that if you're in Wylie ISD, you're going to be okay. Because we have a culture that is about people first and the babies that we serve, and And this idea that, when Christ did what he did, he served first and was the example to others about what we do, how we do, and the process behind it. And I think that our intentions are good and we're going to mess up and that we're going to give grace there. But, as leaders, it's our job to be that standard bearer of that goodness and give that and care like you'd have us do. But Scott, I mean, that's what I would say. How about you?
Mine, I would absolutely replicate that as well. But I also say that we've got the greatest teachers in the state of Texas that love our babies. They love our kids. I'm telling you right now, they will be on to the online when they need it. If you want to call them. They are open. They love our babies and they want to make sure they get the best. And so, God has blessed us with great teachers. We don't need buildings to show that. They're in their homes showing how much they love their babies. So if I could say that to everyone, I mean, it's not about all the things we're doing up here. It's what's going on in the home. The brick and mortar of the school building, it has love in it, but the love just transferred to the teacher's home through the computer. And it's that's what's amazing.
We thank you. We thank you for what y'all are doing. It's amazing.
Well, when we have some of those incredible teachers that are in our church, and we know the kind of people that serve on your front lines, and we're incredibly grateful for you guys. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, for your service to our community, for the examples that you are. We're praying for you, and this is what I believe. I believe when this is all over, there are going to be a lot of mamas and daddies that have a lot more respect for the teachers they're sending those kids to. When they ask for pencils, they're going to send them pencils.
They're going to send them. I love being a middle school principal, so I don't even know what reality is. So just bring them on over to my house. Christy won't mind.
That's awesome. Hey, guys, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Pastor Jarrett.
Hey, just want to say a big thank you to Dr. David Vinson, Superintendent of Wylie ISD, and Scott Wynn, the Assistant Superintendent. Great friends, great people, great men, and as you can tell, the Wylie community is blessed to have them. So those of you that are educators, we just big shout out, thank you for what you do for our communities. Those of you that are parents trying to educate kids in a whole new way, we're praying for you, standing with you in this season and in this journey. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube but would like to actually have it downloaded as an audio to listen to going forward, you can subscribe to this every time a new one comes. It can be pushed right to your device. We would encourage you to subscribe. You can find out all where the subscriptions can happen at podcast.northplacechurch.com. And it will take you to our podcast page and every podcasting software out there, from Apple to Stitcher to Google Podcasts to Spotify, all of them. All right. So at that one place, podcast.northplacechurch.com. So there's sermons there as well as some of the leadership value addeds. If you want to watch them, you can watch them at youtube.com/NorthPlaceChurch. Until next time, thank you for joining this time. God bless.